Well, hello and welcome to SoCal Prep Report. We're going to go over the state finals that were held in Sacramento in basketball. What a great weekend of hoops. Southern California did well. SB Live's Tarek was there, and he's with us tonight, and we'll break down the games. Also, we have Mike Dulaney on the show from Alemany. They won the state championship. The Warriors are the D3 state champions. Mike will join us in a few minutes. Tarek, good to see you. How enjoyable was Sacramento?
You know, it's a long 2 days. We're talking Friday, first game's at 10, last game's at 8, and same thing on Saturday. So it's 12 games in 2 days. They're both every game's on TV, a lot of media timeouts, so sometimes the games can drag a little bit. It's all fun. It's all great. It is hard work, though, for 2 straight days. I'm glad to be back home.
Always blame the media.
I am the media.
All right, let's start with the boys' bracket. Harvard-Westlake goes back-to-back. This Harvard-Westlake Wolverine team met a very good Salesian college prep team, and it was not easy by 5, but they had to hold on for dear life.
It was stuck on 42-42 for forever. And, man, Harvard-Westlake just was able to get foundational. They got the stops they needed. And, of course, McDonald's All-American Trent Perry made 2 huge jumpers at the end of the game. This is a highlight of Christian Ori, actually, an and 1-3. This is early in the first quarter. That's what got him going. But credit to David Rabibo and the Wolverines were absolutely fantastic. The defense was splendid, and the offense was there when they needed it. I don't think anyone was expecting a 50-45 game. That's pretty low. But, again, this is Robert Hinton. He led the game in scoring with 19 points. I tell you what, the whole arena was watching that game and watching, this is Trent Perry at the end of the game there. That's one of the huge buckets he had in the fourth quarter. But one thing about Hinton real quick, Randy, was how great of a shot maker he was in that arena. And people were, hey, where's he going to school? Where's he going to school? He's going to Harvard. And everyone was like, wow, what a steal it will be for them.
Good to have a closer like Trent Perry. He hits the big shots when it counts the most. He's the guy that really propelled him to 2 state championships in succession. And 50-45 to me is not surprising. That's who Harvard-Westlake is, a great defensive team. You don't get to 50 against the Wolverines. That's why they're the state champs. All right, boys D1, St. John Bosco. How about the Braves? San Ramon Valley couldn't keep up with that very fine Brave team, 78-62. Jack Turner with 20. Brandon McCoy was brilliant with 18 points and 8 boards.
I don't think people realize, we're going to show this clip right here. Brandon McCoy just slithers his way right down the heart of the defense and dunks it with 2 hands. And he makes it look so easy. It's not easy. He's only a sophomore. That's why he's the top-rated sophomore in the country. Really, really good player. And I'll last add, Matt Dunn, the head coach at St. John Bosco, I think he would tell us it was one of the most stressful seasons he's ever had. I know he had a lot of talent, but they had issues. They had identity issues, and he was on the record about that earlier in the year. So January 6th, they lost by 21 points to Mater Dei. They got better, they found an identity, and they won a state championship.
And they beat Mater Dei on
correct.
the way to
the regional final. That's correct.
So yeah, give Matt all the credit in the world. Matt Dunn's a terrific guy and does a wonderful job for Bosco. All right, next one we want to talk about is, this is a fun one. D4 in the state. Chatsworth got to the final, didn't come up with a great enough effort to win it. They lose 74-66 to Monterey. But you see the graphic on the bottom. Arenas, 44 points for the Chancellors.
Yeah, it was really fun to watch it unfold. Quick little historic notes. He is the all-time leader in Division IV state championship history in points and field goals made, and the mark in both field goals made and points is now second all-time, regardless of division, behind the one and only Tracy Murray, who scored 64 points in 1989 for Glendora. I think Elijah finished with 19 made field goals, and I think Tracy Murray finished with 26 made field goals for his 64 points. But either way, Arenas is in the history books as a sophomore.
That's the key. He's just a sophomore.
Yeah.
So we just don't know how good Gilbert's kid's going to end up being. Right now, he's really good already. Next one, D5 in the state. Boys, Athenian, 67. Verdugo Hills, 49. They could not stop Evan Lucas. A double-double for the Owls.
I just think Verdugo Hills was outmatched, and that's okay. What a great season it was for that city section team. The Dons make it all the way to the state championship. They play on an NBA arena. Great atmosphere. The problem is Verduga Hills, they rely on that 3-ball, Randy. And when you get in those big arenas and you never played in something like that, it's tough to shoot well in a big arena with the depth perception, and that's what killed them. I think they only made 5 or 6 threes for the game. They're used to making like 11 or 12.
Yeah, it really was a wonderful year for Jared Gibson's team. They won 12 games in a row coming in. That means they won a city championship, lower level, won a regional championship. Not quite good enough to get it done at state, but for the Dons, a wonderful season. The next one, D3. We're going to see our guest in a moment here. He's got to be proud of this one. Alemany, 63. Santa Cruz, 53. Michael Lindsay, a two-sport athlete, football and basketball, 25 points. Jared Mims, who's a star there, 14 points for the Warriors. That's their second D3 title. The other one was back in 2012.
Yeah, here's Michael Lindsay hitting a 3-ball. He was splendid in the game. I think everyone was impressed with just how athletic he was. He had a couple dunks, if I'm not mistaken, too. So Alemany had a great year. They won what I coined the treble, where you win the section title, the regional title, and the state title. Can't wait to hear more from Coach Mike.
Well, Coach Mike's got to be thrilled about the performance, Tarek. It also is a tribute to the Mission League. They get two state champions in the boys, and another one in the girls. So 3 state championship teams out of the Mission League. And without further ado, let's bring in Mike Dulaney. Mike, congratulations on the championship. I got to feel that you're still glowing from what happened in Sacramento.
Oh man, thanks for having me. Yeah, it's definitely a cloud nine experience. Just coming out of that atmosphere and coming out with the state championship. We had an awesome run through CIF, and it continued through state. So I'm definitely proud of our guys and our program.
All right, so you finished 1-6 in the Mission League. You're 14-15, and suddenly the switch goes on, and you win your final 11 games, the last 5, by double figures. What happened? How'd you get it done? How'd you turn them around?
I think you talked about earlier in the segment here, finding our identity. We locked in defensively. We found ourselves defensively, really. We averaged roughly, I think, 64, 65 a game, and defensively we were giving up under 50 for a while, and we locked in, and our identity was on the defensive end. A lot of run-outs, run-through. We live in transition, defensive transition. You mentioned Jared Mims, Mike Lindsay, Logan Dorsey, all these guys that got out and ran out, and it was a credit to our defense for sure.
Michael, I had to ask you a little bit more about. Sorry, there's like a fly in the studio. We got to ask you a little bit more about the Mission League, right? The gauntlet that is the Mission League and the players you see. Did you have the confidence that maybe not so much for yourself, because but the players, did you know once you got down to 3A, right, through the Southern section and even Division III state, which I'm not saying it wasn't challenging, but you knew it was a step below what you're used to seeing night in and night out in the Mission League. So once your team had seen that type of play, did you feel like they were prepared for anything that might come your way through the sectional, regional, and state run?
Yeah, it was one of those things where the gauntlet, like you say, of Mission League prepares you, because night in, night out, you don't know what to expect. And well, I guess you know what to expect as far as it's going to be a tough battle, but certain matchups and certain coaches play different defense this way and whatnot. But going into playoffs, I honestly felt we had a makeup of a strong team, and I thought that we had some advantages on the floor, and we really maximized those. So yeah, the Mission League, it is what it is. It's a beast. And so our guys weren't phased going into playoffs. And going into CIF, they understood, and we had a tough matchup. I'm pleased with our performance at Arlington. We went on the road out to Riverside, 2.5 hours. It was crazy to get there. That environment was wild, and so that really kind of springboarded us through the playoffs. But I felt we had a strong makeup for a strong run in CIF, and once we got to state, for sure.
Speaking of wild, you had to go through Bosco Tech twice. And one of those games was a game in the 80s that went into triple overtime. Talk to us about that game and how compelling that contest was.
Yeah, that was the CIF final, and we had the lead at half by 9, I believe, maybe 11. they came out and made some shots in the third quarter, cut the lead down tight, and it was basically back and forth from the end of the third into the fourth and 3 overtimes. And credit to them, they just never gave up. They worked so dang hard. I don't know if I've played a team that just was relentless on the rebounding like they were. And they gave us fits, and we finally figured it out in the third overtime. We went on a 7-0 run, and I kind of held them off, but it was compelling to say the least. And once we got that, I'll tell you what, the practice that Monday, the guys were still exhausted, and it was one of those we just had to revamp and refresh because we had another game coming up. So that triple overtime it was fun. Looking back at it, it was an awesome time for us, and it helped us in the state run on 5 more.
Yeah, it sounds like it's an all-timer. That might live in Alemany lore right there, triple overtime for the championship. My last one for you, Mike, is a little bit more personal to your team. Jared Mims, right? Kind of this long time, 4-year varsity player. Am I right on that?
No, 3 years. He played JV a year, and then he came up to the varsity level, and I've had him for 2 years.
So the last 2 years you've had him, he's grown. He's been the point guard for your team. Can you just talk about a little specifically on him and just when I watch you guys play, it just seems like maybe the motor of your team while the other guys are kind of doing their roles, but he seems to be the guy that spark plugs you guys.
No, I can't say enough about Jared. Oh man, we literally, I told him, I was like, the keys are yours. We're going to go where you take us. And it wasn't a pressure situation like you need to drive us. I knew he was driven. He's in the gym all the time. He's one of those gym rats who's constantly trying to get better. And he's a spark plug. And his play from last year to this year, he got stronger physically. His skill set, it looked like he got a little quicker, and he's constantly working on his craft, and that really just drove us through this year. And from game 1 to game 40, we were 25-15, 40-game season, and he never wavered. I think he averaged 30 minutes a game for us, and so he led us here. And in the championship game, that state game, he had eight steals. And that's saying something for his ability. And some days he was our scoring leader, other ways his assists, and just different ways. And I can't say enough about Jared.
You're good with football, guys. Michael Lindsay, great football player at Alemany.
Yeah.
Obviously a catalyst in your championship game with the 25 points. But in your high school days, you were classmates with Ricky Williams at Patrick Henry High School in San Diego. Obviously, Ricky went on to star at Texas, had a nice NFL career. What was the experience like palling with Ricky Williams as a prep?
Oh man, as a prep, it was awesome to see him play. Friday night, you want to talk about Friday Night Lights? It was Friday Night Lights every time that Ricky touched the ball. And on Friday night, his senior year, it was just running through guys. And I have a funny story about his success and kind of my path. We were one day, a couple buddies were on beach cruisers down at Pacific Beach in San Diego. We're just riding down, and this Ferrari, the silver Ferrari, pulls up, doors open, and we're like, what's going on here? And Ricky just leans over. He could barely fit in those bucket seats. He was enormous. His neck was out here. He's like, "What's up, guys?" And that was a fun story I like to share. But yeah, it was a pretty cool experience having him around.
Well, it was good having you around. Congratulations, Coach, on the championship. Continued success. You've only been at Alemany for 3 years. Looking forward to number 4 next year, and we'll see how you do. Congratulations.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
You got it. Did a wonderful job finishing up the way they did.
Yeah, no, it's a great, strong finish. And you mentioned the Harvard-Westlake winning the Open. Alemany won Division III, everything. Notre Dame won the Division I Southern Section Championship. So you're talking about, three teams won championships in some aspect this year. It just goes to show you how tough the Mission League is. Not to mention, Crespi made the Mission League tournament final, and no one expected that. So that team's really good. Yeah,
and it took a miracle shot to knock them out of the playoffs.
That's right.
All right, let's move ahead and talk about the ladies. And this is a great tribute to Etta Wanda. Stan DeLuce is a guy we just love on this show. We think he's one of the great coaches, boys or girls. He does a wonderful job with Etiwanda, and he devised the scheme. Archbishop Mitty was 30-0, number 1 in the country, and he throws a wild zone at him that threw Archbishop Mitty off early, and they could never recover.
It wasn't even close. The first double-digit lead was 22-12. Randy, it was never less than double digits the rest of the way. Kennedy Smith just got named Gatorade State Player of the Year, McDonald's All-American, going to SC. She's going to team up with Juju Watkins. The list goes on of the great players. Grace Knox was fantastic. She's been fantastic all year. Etiwanda is going to be the team to beat next year.
Keep in mind, Etiwanda got through Sierra Canyon twice, a very good team in the tournament locally, then goes up north, and then they go up against Archbishop Mitty, who again was number 1, and there you see Kennedy Smith, who's great.
I mean, good on both sides of the floor. This USC team next year with Kennedy Smith added to the roster is going to be really, really good, of course, with Juju Watkins and a couple other players they're bringing in. But, yeah, the defense. Stan DeLuce just had them locked in. And I tell you what, you'll laugh at this, Randy. I'm watching Stan DeLuce. Every time the opponent scores, it's like he gets sick to his stomach. You can only imagine how hard they practice, how disciplined they are, and it showed at that state championship
All right,
game.
what's your line? Stan DeLuce?
Oh, he's on the loose.
Here.
It's Stan DeLuce.
Okay. You had to get that in.
Okay.
Girls Division I basketball tournament. Bishop Montgomery, this is a good win for this program, 52-40 over Bishop O'Dowd. Again, O'Dowd has great athletes. You see there Coleman with a nice outing, 14.6 rebounds for the Knights. This is their 7th state title.
I was just going to say, there is a history there for Bishop Montgomery girls basketball, and it is deep with CIF State championships. So it had been a while, but they're back on top, and that was a fun game to watch.
Yeah, Noelle Quinn, a former great player at UCLA, played in the WNBA, got that program rolling a few years ago, and they're still going strong. All right, Division II, here's Harvard-Westlake again. Melissa Herlihy, a wonderful coach. 60-45 over Harvard, over Colfax for Harvard-Westlake. 839 wins for Herlihy now. She's trying to run down Kevin Kiernan, who's won 900, the all-time leader in girls wins. Valentina Guerrero, 13 points, 14 rebounds for the Wolverines.
This is a really good team. Deanna Thompson's really good. Jamie Yu, the senior, and Angelina Habis, I think is her name. And she's only a freshman, and she's really, really good. So this Harvard-Westlake team is going to be back, Randy. They only lose one senior. It's going to be a really, really good team.
Next, we want to talk about girls Division State basketball final with Carruthers in Granada Hills. It was a tough time for the city section. This is D3, and Carruthers out of Fresno. Emmy Almeida, 21 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists for the Blue Raiders. Her mom's the head coach, and Carruthers was just the stronger team. But Granada Hills fought.
Rough weekend for the city section. 3 state finalists, no winners. It's they are looking for their first state championship win since 2018 when View Park won a boys Division IV championship. So it's been a little bit.
There is honors for the city section as we're now through those state games, and high school basketball is over except for some all-star games coming up. Let's talk about the coach of the year in the LA City section boys. Lloyd Webster was on our show last week from King Drew. Not a surprise. They won the Open Division Championship.
Yeah, I hate to say it's cliche, but the truth is generally the championship team, the coach of that team wins the coach of the year in the city. So Lloyd Webster gets the honor.
Co-players of the year on the boys' side, Donald Thompson of King Drew and Elijah Arenas of Chatsworth. Girls' coach of the year, Victor Kupang Sikorn of Birmingham. But what I get a major kick out of,
oh man,
this is kind of crazy. Players of the year for the girls, all from Birmingham. Dee Dee Berry, Nat Lopez, Sammy Velasquez.
Yeah, really weird. What's actually more weird, I don't even know if that's the correct language, for 2 players on separate teams, okay, fine. I'd like for them to pick one, but fine. But to split the player of the year between 3 girls on the same team, that to me makes me feel like there was an appeasement for parents, and I don't have a problem saying that on air. Someone didn't want to get their feelings hurt, someone didn't want to get upset, so they gave the player of the year to 3 players on the same team. odd and should never happen again.
Well, if you have 3 players that are the best in the city, you got a pretty good team. With apologies to Mariah Blake, who really was the best player in the
No
city
question.
of Westchester.
No
They were
question.
the runner-ups to Birmingham. She got in foul trouble in the final, and that kind of curtailed their chances. All right, what about next year? Let's start with the CIF Southern Section. We'll talk about the boys. Roosevelt, Eastvale, these are the teams I just jotted down. You can comment.
Sure.
St. John Bosco, Mater Dei, Crespi, and Harvard Westlake are 5 I noted.
Yeah, just off the top of my head, there's no question the team to beat next year is Eastvale Roosevelt. They only lose one key senior, and that's Darnez Slater. He's going to Colorado State. But Braden Burries comes back, Miles Walker comes back, Isaac Williamson comes back, and a couple other players come back. And that coach, Coach Singleton, is as good as it gets. And we're talking about a team that's going to be hungry. They lost in the Southern Section Open Division Final and the Southern Section Regional Final. So they're a couple wins away from being the Harvard Westlake, per se. You know, winning a section, winning the regional, and probably going up and beating Salesian, although Salesian did go to Harvard Westlake a good run. My point being, they're going to be the team to beat. St. John Bosco, we don't know. There's rumors of that players might leave the program, a lot of underclassmen. We don't know. We'll see about that. Mater Dei will be very good. Very, very good. Basically, their whole team comes back. Brandon Benjamin, who just came from Canyon of Anaheim, he actually transferred back to Canyon of Anaheim. So we'll see about that. Rolling Hills Prep returns a lot of players. They'll be good. Crespi will be good too. I think that they might have a little bit of movement. We don't want to go. I'll leave it at that. So we don't.
You're saying they might get a transfer.
Well,
or 2.
there might be a guy leaving too. So we'll see. We'll see about Crespi. I'm trying to think of what Redondo Union will be very good. They return a lot of players as well. So it'll be a very, very top heavy. Windward. All those guys come back.
DJ Gay's team. Oh, yeah.
Yep. Gavin Hightower, the whole 9. So I could keep going. I'll stop. But yes, it'll be a
we
fun.
got 8 minutes. Go.
It'll be a fun year next year. And last, what I will mention is because the playoff format changes next year. We're used to seeing 8 teams in the Open. But now the playoff formats are going to be like football. So if they feel like it's adequate enough, they could take 10. They could take 12 Open Division teams if they feel like 1 to 12, 1 to 14, 1 to 10 is competitive. So you could see more teams in the Open next year.
Last add on this subject matter. Let's talk Harvard Westlake. I mean, they're going to go for 3 in a row in the state. I don't know if they're going to have enough firepower, but they do have Hymenia coming back, who's a terrific player. Can Dave Rabibo mold another championship team?
Well, he keeps talking about these 2 JV players, and I can't think of. I know one. Holden is the name of one. I don't want to go too crazy, but he's got 2 JV kids that should have been on varsity this year, but simply because the team was so good, they probably wouldn't have played. So for developmental purposes, you keep them on JV so they can play games. But he goes, anywhere else, they're varsity players.
And he's still got his center coming back,
correct.
too.
So Dominic Bento comes back. He'll be a
center.
junior. Hymenia will come back. He'll be a senior. Amir Jones, who's shooting threes and making threes, he'll come back. He'll be a junior. And Isaiah Johnson, I can't think of those. Oh, Isaiah Carroll is a junior and will be a senior next year. He returns. So they got some quality pieces plus a couple new like JV kids that'll slide in.
King Drew in the city section appears to be the team next year.
Again, it's all about what it's all
They got
about.
everybody coming back.
Yeah, you got to have people, but kids transfer.
I know.
That's the hard part. But given that the roster stays intact, they are 100% the team to beat.
Okay. I like Kibble. He's a great player. And Jason Webster's not bad either. Those are the 2 stars that are coming back for King Drew next year. Girls, Etiwanda. These are the 3 teams I wrote down because I think there's 3 powerhouses. Etiwanda, Sierra Canyon, and this one, Ontario Christian, because of Kalina Smith, who averages over 30 a game.
I want to say a name on the air. Sydney Douglas. Be prepared. Sydney Douglas is an incoming freshman. She will be a freshman next year at Etiwanda.
Okay.
They arguably might be better next year after they lose Kennedy Smith. She's a 6'5" freshman that shoots threes. Sydney Douglas.
Really good, huh?
Very good.
And who's the coach?
He's on the loose. It's Stan DeLuce.
He won a state championship
Man,
the last 2 years. We've been talking about
Stan's
Rabibo.
great.
Think about that. We just saw Rabibo do it on the boys' side and DeLuce do it on the girls' side, win back-to-back state titles. That doesn't happen very often. Harvard Westlake's only the 3rd team in the highest division to ever do it. Sierra Canyon's done it, Mater Dei's done it, and
That's
now
it.
Harvard Westlake. That's it.
And there's only a few teams, I have it written, so I think there's only, I think it's 6 total teams at the highest level to win all 3. So to win the section, the regional, and the state at the open division level, which you'd think, well, yeah, it's not always the case. For example, Harvard Westlake last year did not win the section.
Right.
They didn't even get to the game. St. John Bosco and Centennial, remember Aaron McBride had the dunk at the buzzer. So anyway, my point being, it's very hard to win what I called earlier the treble, to win all 3, and Harvard Westlake did that this year.
Do you have a patent on that?
No, but it's an English soccer term.
Oh, okay, I like it. It's really good.
The treble, real quick, because we've got a little time, the treble in European soccer, at least in the Premier League in England, is winning the Premier League, the FA Cup, and the Champions League. That's called the treble.
We got another treble. We have no trouble, but we do have a treble.
Okay.
Softball, CIF Southern Section top 10. Pacifica, we got to get some of their
Sure.
people on this show at some point. They're in Garden Grove. They're ranked number 1 in the country. Bryn Nally, their pitcher, is almost unhittable. She's going to Long Beach State next year. Norco, you look at Orange Lutheran, number 3. They have Brianne Weiss, who's another great pitcher who's going to go to Notre Dame, a lefty, just threw a perfect game against Cajon the other day with 16 Ks.
Listen, the softball here in Southern California is really, really good, just like everything else. It's just hard to find a sport that this isn't the hotbed for. I will mention one thing, not to knock this list. If I'm not mistaken, Granada Hills Charter.
Wait a minute, I got them separately.
Okay, you want to talk about them in a second? Okay, because I think they've beaten 4 or 5 of those teams.
Well,
Go ahead.
he got it. Granada Hills is the team we wanted to talk about in the city.
Okay.
You're right. They're 10-0. They won again today. They're 10-0, all against Southern Section.
Right,
teams.
and I think 3-4 of the teams that they've beaten are on this list right here. So the Southern Section number 1 team is Granada Hills Charter.
Yeah, Ivan Garcia's got a great club at Granada Hills Charter, and Jeanette Camarena has 2 homers. She can really hit. Now, Granada Hills is just hitting the cover off the ball, so obviously their softball team is great. All right, a little bit more ground to cover here. SB Live's top baseball teams in the Southern Section. Number 1, Orange Lutheran has moved ahead of Corona now. Olu ranked number 1.
Yeah, Orange Lutheran beat Corona, so naturally you got to throw them up there. And if things trend the way they have all year long, Orange Lutheran will probably lose a game coming up soon, because every time I put someone number 1, they tend to lose. But listen, baseball, you know it at every level, high school, college, pro. One game really doesn't define you. They play so often, and there's so many variables, and one guy's on, one guy's off, one guy's hitting great, one guy's not. So these will change throughout the year. Westlake is, if I'm not mistaken, Westlake might be the only team on that 10 still unbeaten. I think everyone has at least 1 loss. So
Yeah, with
Warriors.
Haberman and Volantis, they have a dynamic duo pitching staff, 1 righty and 1 lefty. Tough to hit against Harvard Westlake, against Westlake's pitching. It's hard
Correct.
to hit against Harvard Westlake, too.
That's true.
The 2 Westlake schools are really, really good there. No question about it. All right, let's also talk about the top teams in the LA City section. SB Live has 3 top teams from the West Valley. 1, 2, 3, El Camino Real, Birmingham, who won the city title last year, and Granada Hills.
It's going to be an interesting year in the city. I think ECR is the team to beat. Narbonne has a horrible record. They're 2-9, but all their losses are to Southern Section teams. So to me, I like to see city section baseball teams, or city section any team, football, basketball. I like when they take on Southern Section teams, because they know when they come down to the city section level, they're going to have a better chance of winning, because there's nothing they haven't seen before. So Narbonne could be the sleeper that, right now they're 2-9, but they might
You had them at number 1 at some point.
well, because they beat ECR.
Right.
So, and then they lost 4 in a row. But they were all the Southern Section teams, quality Southern Section teams. So hopefully they're getting better. It's hard to lose those games and not get better.
All right, in the final minute, I want to figure out what you're going to cover now, because I know you love hoops. It has to be a little bit of a letdown for you personally. You love it.
Are we going to do a therapy session these last 50
We may
seconds?
need one.
Yeah, it's a good question. Listen, got back from the state championships. For those that don't know, high school basketball starts November 11th or 13th, one of those 2 days, I forgot which one, and goes all the way until March 9th. It's a long season. It's not like football. Football's long, but it's once a week. Basketball, I'm out there 3-4 times a week. So it's this week I've kind of downshifted, recharge the batteries. Next week I will be getting to some more baseball games, maybe a couple track and field meets. maybe go check out a softball player or two, and then we'll coast into the summer.
And we're going to change the complexion of this show. Certainly, we're going to talk a little basketball next week. There'll be things that come up during the week, and we'll discuss that. But I think we should move into baseball,
Sure.
softball, volleyball's going strong, little track and field. It's going to be a little bit varied starting next week.
Yeah, the spring is, again, I use that word downshift. It's not that it's not important. It's just not as, there's something not as anxious about, football's anxious, basketball's anxious. Baseball and spring sports are just seem a little bit more chilled. So as a reporter, I enjoy that feel.
That's going to do it. Show's up. Congratulations to all the champions of the state. Certainly Harvard, Westlake on the boys and Etiwanda on the girls, all the champions, but they repeated as state champions. That is not easy to do. Tarek, we'll see him next week. I'm Randy. Hope you enjoyed SoCal Prep Report. Back next Thursday, right here. Good night, everybody.
Forgot about it. You might have to get out and watch a little golf.
I love golf.
We gotta talk about, okay, we'll talk March Madness next week. March Madness, little golf.
UCLA, done, finished.
We'll talk about how Jared McCain at Duke lost today.
Duke lost,
NC State.